Well, thank you guys for being here this morning, or this afternoon, excuse me. I don't even know what time it is. That's the life of a football coach. But, coming off of definitely a disappointing loss to UC Davis. They're a very good football team. I think Coach Plow has done a phenomenal job there. Their coaching staff is really, I think, one of the better coaching staffs in our conference. They do a lot of good things, both offensively and defensively. Caused us some problems in some areas. I thought our kids played exceptionally hard and showed their resolve once again. I mean, we went down 28-7, fumbled the ensuing kickoff. They recovered it at like the 20, and we held them out, and they don't score a single point the rest of the game. And so I think our defense has really continued to get better every week. Our players are getting a lot more experience. A lot of those young secondary guys are now, more veteran type guys. They've been in the fire. They've made the mistakes of young players make, and now they're really growing. And so I think you're seeing that side of the football really excel. We got to continue to get better on offense. I thought we did some good things. Joshua Wood had a career high in passing yards. I think he continues to do a great job creating big plays down the field, continues to move the chains with his legs, but we've got to get tremendously better on conversion downs. Only 1 of 11 on 3rd down, only 2 of 6 on 4th down is just not good enough, especially when you're playing a great opponent in Davis. So as we move forward into Sac State week, we're going to see another team with a lot of talent. Coach Marion's definitely compiled a very good group in terms of their talent. They've got a lot of athleticism, length, speed all across their offense, defense, and special teams. So it'll be certainly another challenge for us to go on the road and get a road win versus the Hornets. So that's kind of all I've got as an opening statement, and would love to open it up for any questions that you guys have.
We do have a mic.
And it looks like we got the mic working.
Hey, Coach. My first question would be, I know this season exactly isn't what you wanted, and it's a little bit more losses than you wanted, but what have your mentors in the past taught you about losing and handle losing throughout a season? Yeah,
I think probably the biggest thing that I've learned from the people that are closest to me in terms of mentorship is you only lose if you don't learn. And if you continue to make the same mistakes, well, that's coaching. And I think we're just making different mistakes. We're certainly not perfect, far from it. And obviously this year has been disappointing in the aspect that we're not a playoff team, but I also look at our roster and see the growth that we've made. And I look at that kind of nucleus of guys that are second, third year guys. Those guys will all be back. The only difference this time is they'll have 500 to 1,000 snaps under their belt, depending on which kid it is. And I think we still have really put together a lot of key building blocks for the future of this program.
We've talked about the development of your culture before. What about the development of the players? How have you seen them grow throughout the season?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think our young players have grown tremendously. I was actually talking with Hayden John and Matt Irwin, a couple of sophomore safeties for us, and they were like, Coach, man, just think about how much better we are right now than we were maybe week 2. And I say, well, think about how much better you'll be in a year. Right, and so I think that those guys have really developed, not only from on the field, like physically, but mentally, probably even more so mentally, being able to handle tough situations, be able to handle adversity, battle back in a lot of ways, right? You look at the Northern Arizona game, that was a great example of just battling back and coming out with a victory. But, that mental toughness is something that I think I've seen our team really grow from, right? We went from kind of an immature team that, didn't necessarily handle adversity well, right? That Northern Colorado game, we did not handle adversity very well. And then, a week later, we didn't win the game, but I thought we handled adversity a lot better against Eastern Washington, into Portland State and Northern Arizona, even into UC Davis. So I think the mental growth has been every bit as, and if not more, than the physical growth.
Kind of talking about that, with playoffs not in the picture, what is the central motivation for this team going forward in these last couple games?
Yeah, for us is let's send these seniors out on a high note. Our senior class has really been a part of something special here, really turning the program into something that is competitive every year, something that is going to get the other team's best effort every time we play. And I think that those building blocks that they have really set for this program is huge, and I want to send those guys out on a high note.
When you look at Sac State, obviously the running the football for them is such a key part of their offense. When you look at them as a running back coach, background yourself, what makes them so dangerous when they're running the football?
They got 3 or 4 kids in that tailback room that could play for probably anybody in our league. That's probably what stands out the most. And then, Coach Marion, he's creative. He's going to find different ways to get those guys the ball. He's going to get 2 of them on the field at times. And I just think that they do a really nice job up front. They're physical, and they're kind of a group that has that mentality. They want to grind you. And obviously when you have good offensive linemen, good running backs, they've definitely been able to do that to some teams.
Kind of along those same lines, you guys have got a little bit of experience up front on defense like Zach Rosser, but how do you, when it's a type of game like that with such a young defense, how do you prepare for something like that?
Coach Dennis and I were talking about it this morning. It's really, you got to prepare like it's a street fight, right? No, there's no rules, right? You got to go in there with that type of mentality that you're going to go in for a 12-round fight, and you've got to keep punching until there's no more time left. And I think our younger players have that mentality, and they're continuing to develop that mentality. And I think the confidence that they've built, especially over the last 4 games, has been huge. And so that's going to be really paramount to us, stopping that run game and trying to make them put the ball in the air.
And you kind of talked about your team's mental toughness. So can you expand on that a little bit and talk about your team's resilience?
Yeah, you just look at the way we play. We've been in every single football game that we've played. We've lost no games by more than 2 possessions, and I think that tells you a lot about our group. We've had situations where we've gone down multiple scores and fought right back. We've had opportunities where teams could have easily put us away. I think about the Montana game all the time. A lot of places go into Missoula, you get down 3 scores, and that game gets to 5 scores pretty quick. But our kids just keep fighting, and I think that shows a lot about the belief they have in each other, and that's something that you can definitely build on. When players believe in each other, players believe in the program, you can certainly build on that. And I think that mental toughness portion has really been shown in those times, right? This is really hard. This opponent is getting after us right now, and they have not done anything in terms of backing down. Those guys are going to keep fighting until there's no time left.
Kind of going back to talking about Sac State running the football, you guys are one of the best defenses against the run in the conference. So when it's a strength-on-strength matchup like that, what do you expect? Because we've seen Sac State, if they have the ability to run the ball 90% of their offensive plays, they'll do it. But in where you would think that you guys would have some success against that defense, what are you expecting? Are you expecting them maybe to open up the playbook more than they have in games past this year?
Well, I'm sure they're planning for that, right? You've always got to have a kind of an exit strategy if your first kind of ideas don't work, and obviously they're kind of a run-first team, and so that's really our job to force them into throwing the football. Because I think against Eastern Washington a couple weeks ago they threw it 5 times, right? And so I think our ability to be physical up front, our ability to change the picture for them, not allow them to have great angles on each play is going to be huge, and forcing them into throwing the ball is going to be something we have to do to win the football game.
Obviously, conversion downs were an issue in the last game. But what other things do you want to tackle offensively to have more success against Sacramento State?
Honestly, that's it. We've got to do a better job on conversion downs, and we've got to do a better job in the red zone. Those are 2 areas that we've really struggled this season, and we're going to make some changes to make sure that we can improve on those things. But that's really ultimately where I think offensively we've got to improve. It really doesn't matter anything else. Schematically, if we can't convert on 3rd down and we're putting our defense out there 2 or 3 series more than they need to be, that's going to be tough for them. It's going to be a physical toll and a mental toll. And so we've really got to do a great job staying on the field. And when we get into that red zone area, we got to score touchdowns.
Against Sacramento State, any specific matchups besides the running game that you're excited for your team and the advantage that you see for your team?
I think. Like I always lean on our offensive line. I think that's been our group that's been very consistent all season. And, they've got a massive front. They've got a couple of, I think they probably about 4 guys that are, over 6'3", over 300 pounds on that interior. And so I think that matchup's going to be one to really look for. I think the matchup with our quarterback and their secondary is another one to really look for. And then, again, we've talked about it a lot, but just our defensive front 7 against that offensive line and running backs is going to be crucial.